Yep.
And now a huge issue, I think, in New York State. A huge issue in New York State. We're done with the beginning of our clips, and now we're going to turn our attention to the People's Republic in New York. For Christmas, it appears as though New York City Democrats are going to be giving and calling a special session and bringing lawmakers back to give members of the Assembly and Senate pay raises.
Well, hey, anytime you can get a raise, you got to do it, right?
Yeah, I guess, if like pigs at the trough. And I'm talking about New York City Democrats, not people like New York State Assemblyman Dave DiPietro, who joined us on the Mike and Mahailu live line. Dave, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Life is great.
Dave, where's your raise? That's my question.
This is I didn't even know about this until you guys just started talking about it this morning, and then I called Albany, and yeah, it looks like the Democrats are out of New York City are still pissed about upset about the pay issue. You got to remember, when we were making $79.9, New York City Council, which only meets on a Thursday, just like our county ledge, the New York City was making $120. And so all the people coming to Albany were upset. This is going back a few years, 5-6 years. And they were like, we've got to get a pay raise. We got to get a raise. Well, I skip forward to when we finally got this pay raise that we have now a couple years ago. On the exact same week that we got our pay raise, New York City raised their pay to $150,000 a year.
I think I'm in the wrong business.
And so all the Albany Democrats from the city went absolutely berserk because they thought they were going to get that we got a really great pay raise, but now since New York City went to 150, it wasn't enough, and they've been screaming about that now since that day years ago. So it's just you can't make this stuff up.
And so
people are so obsessed with money, it's not funny.
Right. So Assemblyman DiPietro, right now, members of the New York State Assembly and Senate earn $120,000 a year, and you are allowed to generate outside income.
110,
which is not a low salary at all.
No,
at
it's
all.
Fantastic.
So when it comes to right now, you're allowed to have outside income. So there's a lot of members of the Assembly, Senate who are either attorneys, they're work in the private sector in finance. They can have outside income in whatever they want. So Assemblyman DiPietro, correct me if I'm wrong, the current proposal, if a special session is called, if lawmakers are brought back, would increase pay of Assembly members and senators to $130,000 a year, but cap your outside income to a maximum of $20,000.
That's correct. And on the original, going back a few years when we got this pay raise, I was on the lawsuit, against that. Here's why. I go into public service. I'm a dry cleaner. I own my own business for 30 years. I would have had to give up, sell it, or get rid of it. Now, what happens if I'm in Albany for 2 years and I get defeated? I just gave up my entire life. I gave up my pension, my retirement, my business, everything to go serve the public on a annual 2 year, if come, crapshoot, so to speak, on a gamble that I'm going to get reelected. So that's stupid, and that's against the Constitution anyway, You can't tell someone what they can and cannot make on their own. And as a dry cleaner, I wasn't going to do that, and I fought it, and we won. Now they want to do it again. But this is called communism, folks, This is socialism to the max, We're going to tell you what you can and cannot do and how much you can make, It's called wealth redistribution. They're trying it again. I don't think it's going to pass muster, especially if this thing goes up to the Supreme Court.
So, Dave, is this how it is, like every 2 and 4 years? Is this what happens? They just complain to get their way? Is that how this works?
every 2 minutes.
Oh, it's so sad. We can only laugh at it, right? That's all you can do.
It's crazy. I mean, they're obsessed with it. You remember going back when we did not get the pay raise, when we did not get the pay raise about 4 years ago or 6 years ago, whenever, I got back into Albany on January when Andrew Cuomo had that 5-panel pay raise commission, and after the election in November, like now, we only get about 8 weeks in between to make that decision as an elected body. Well, he turned his three. He had three on the panel, all Democrats, so they thought this pay raise was going through. And after the election, he turned his three and said no, and they were so upset. When we got back the first week of January, I sat next to a gentleman from New York City, and he just smiled. He said, "It looks like there's not going to be an on-time budget this year." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "No pay raise, no budget. We already, this is like January 5th. He goes, "We already told the governor they're not going to be on time no matter what he does because he screwed us on the pay." And so that March 31st, if you remember a few years ago, under Cuomo's budget, we did not get a budget for, I think, 9 or 10 days.
All because lawmakers didn't get a raise.
Yeah, and they tried to blame it on a million things, but we were in the assembly, we were just laughing on the floor because we would sit there and do nothing day after day, staying in Albany. Oh, and it was all, so we sat there literally 10 hours a day on the floor doing nothing because it was just until they got enough time to tell the governor to put egg on his face for not having an on-time budget because they didn't get the pay raise. So we all had to sit there every day for like 9 days straight, and it was crazy stupid, but this is what we do. This is what we do.
So Assemblyman DiPietro, this is Stefan, by the way. So procedurally speaking, what is the status of a proposed pay raise for lawmakers in New York State right now? Is it your understanding that it either has been called or it's going to be called a special session so that this passes by December 31st? What's the status?
We have not gotten an update. I called Albany this morning after I heard this news. They have nothing. So they have to write a bill. Okay, a Democrat in the Assembly, a Democrat in the Senate, and then the governor will call a special session, and none of that's been done yet. So they might be writing it right now as we speak. I don't know. I can't believe, with the economy and the country and New York State about to go bankrupt in the next year, that they would have the gall to actually try and propose this. But I do believe it because that's what we deal with every day in Albany. Money grows on trees in Albany. To New York City Democrats and most Democrats here in Western New York, money grows on trees. They have no conception of budgets. They don't care. They get it all the time, but they laugh at us when we talk about budgets. They don't care.
It's really frustrating, Dave, as a small business owner to think about that too, right? Like you gotta keep working hard. You never just ask people for more money. I just don't believe in that. We want more money. And then on top of it, the rest of us are struggling with inflation, all these other things. It is just so upsetting that that's leadership, or that's what people think is leadership across the board in New York State and in many places across the country.
I agree with you 100%. But in New York State, this is what we have. That's why this election last month was so critically important. And for all the reasons I could name and you could name, we didn't make the changes that had to be made. The people didn't. So I don't think, as a conservative, yeah, there'll be a lot of people complaining, but I don't want to hear it from a Democrat. You voted for these people, okay? This is the laws that they're giving you. Accept it. If you're a Democrat and you don't like bail reform, hey, that's too bad, okay? You're the ones that voted for them. So this is what you get, and that's what we have right now.
So
we had a chance to make it.
Right. So Assemblyman DiPietro, do you feel as though when you talk about, okay, Democrats are the ones that voted for Kathy Hochul, Democrats are the ones that kept the senators in power, Democrats are the ones that kept their fellow kind as a majority in the Assembly, do you feel as though taxpayers in our neck of the woods in Western New York are basically fighting a losing battle in perpetuity because no matter what, every single Republican can vote against it, and no matter what, it's going to pass because New York City radical progressives control both chambers. Is that not correct?
That's 100% correct. I've been preaching that to the choir. That's why I put in the bill 4 years ago, which had never been done, to split New York State into 3 autonomous regions, okay, to get rid of New York City and to get rid of Albany, because that's New York City. Okay, come on. It's overwhelming majority, supermajority. Everything they want, they get. There is no debate. People think I go up there and fight, but it falls on deaf ears because I don't have any votes behind me. So, it's you're exactly right. we get what we get because New York City says so. I tell people all the time, Crystal Peoples in Buffalo is our floor leader, the Democrat floor leader, I should say. The first woman, the first African-American ever in New York State. She's probably the fourth most powerful woman in the entire state. Okay, she's got all this clout and power. But even she cannot get her bills to the floor unless the New York City supermajority allows it in her own conference. And that's just a hard fact. Okay, she's got to bring it in front. New York City has to say yes. That's why we get crumbs up here. And now we get very little even of crumbs because our senators, our Democrat senators up here aren't that strong. And New York City just literally laughs at them. They don't give them the respect they're due.
Assemblyman, I have one last question. So, other than defunding the police, which they always talked about doing because that would save some money, have they ever decided to cut back or reduce anything in New York State? Does the left want to reduce anything other than the budget of the police in the state?
Small business, yes. They don't believe in small business, so they continually cut funds into those programs which help, even though they'll try and sit there and say they're for small business. I was the ranker on the small business committee, and I've just watched this year after year. The last 5 years as the ranker on the small business committee, which you would think would have a lot of insight into what goes on. We've had one meeting every year for 5 years. One. Takes 10 minutes because we have one bill. It's to do a study. That's it. So, and Cuomo said when he was governor, he goes, all small business, all funding will go through me. I am the governor. I will decide what happens with small businesses and the direction which these policies go. He was very adamant about that. He's a dictator. And so they don't believe in it. Again, socialism never believes in small business because that's empowerment to people, okay, to give themselves the opportunity to better themselves for the harder they work. And they don't believe that in socialist countries. And that's what New York State is.
But don't you think then it makes perfect sense for even so-called upstate, Western New York, Rochester, Central New York, Watertown, Binghamton, Utica, even for those Democrats to say, yeah, let's do what DiPietro says. Let's split New York between New York City, and then we could decide what's best for our area and not be controlled by downstate and New York City interests. Don't you think even those Democrats should support something like that?
No, because they'll be out of power. They'll be out of the majority. As soon as we flip this state and do 3 autonomous regions, the other 2 regions outside of New York City, the Long Island region and our region, turn redder than Texas overnight, and Democrats will be like me in the assembly. They will have zero power. So they don't want to lose their power. So, and they will never vote with something like that. Okay, ask them. I've asked them. Ask Senator Kennedy, Senator Ryan, Crystal Peoples. They laugh at it. They're not going to give up their power because they don't care about you. They don't care about the individual. It's all about power. And as soon as they even attempt to say that they will support something like that, they'll get ostracized right out of their conference. New York City people will cut them off of leadership positions, money, all that stuff. It's a big power game. They won't support it. So we've got to get to the New York City people, and that's another story. We can do that. That's what I'm working on.
Well, that is New York State Assemblyman Dave DiPietro. If you do us a favor, big guy, keep Mike and Mahailu posted on these salaries, and we'll let all of our conservative listeners know exactly what the status is.
And we hope you get a raise, Dave.
Yeah.
We hope you get one.
You guys, I don't need one, nor do I want one. So
all
God
right.
bless you guys for fighting the fight and standing up for all of us.
You got it. Merry Christmas, brother.
Merry Christmas.